I remember when sergers became widely available for the home sewing market. This odd little machine was rather scary to almost all of us, with its need for several spools of thread and what seemed to be a threading sequence that only a rocket scientist could follow. But along came those absolutely brilliant people who not only figured out how to operate that serger, they earned their PhDs in serging as they introduced us to a whole new world of creative possibilities. Sergers for the home sewer have certainly come a long way since those earlier days, and today we have projects that truly show off serger creativity. Thank you for joining me in my sewing room today. You are going to love this adorable pair of lounging pajamas or camisole and tap pants. The first wonderful detail that my guest is going to share with you today is this beautiful spaghetti, the bias tubing. Then there's a bias binding, and let me tell you, she was good to do all this bias work on silk charmeuse. And they're all done on the serger, I might add. This bias binding around the neckline, the beautiful little machine embroidery. Then there's a beautiful little bias piping. And then there's a bias binding around the bottom of this adorable camisole. And actually the casing was made on the little tap pants on the serger. Here's the little tie. And this is absolutely beautiful. This is bias shaping. And this wonderful hem, which is very, very invisible. That adorable tap pants and camisole. This is the bias tubing, or the spaghetti straps as I call it. Absolutely beautiful. You can do different sizes, and then you can weave them together, or really braid them together. That really isn't weaving. All right, first of all, you make your long chain on your serger. Make it longer than your piece is going to be, and line it up on the middle part of the right hand side. Then you're going to go ahead and serge, and you're almost there. Then this chain you began with, you can pull it and turn it right side out. That's your automatic pull cord. Now let's see bias binding. This is another piece of bias that you make your bias binding. Now there's a little trick here. On some of my antique clothes, you know, you have a pull cord, so you can run your little pull thread through this bias binding where you will have something to shape it with. You can give it a little pull and have a little bit of something to shape it with. This shows you when you run the little pull thread through, it actually makes it a little easier to shape your bias. I'm so pleased to have as my guest today my dear friend and business colleague, Margaret Tully. Margaret is an educational consultant for Baby Lock USA. Margaret, welcome to the show.
Oh, it's always so much fun to be with you, Martha.
Oh, I know. Show us what you did on your magic.
Well, I will.
Okay.
This was silk charmeuse, which is slippery if you don't know, but it's worth the trouble because it is beautiful when it's made. I just brought a few of these samples of the different types of straps that you can make with this serger. This is a wide belt loop. This is a wide belt loop that I took then to the sewing machine, the conventional sewing machine, and did the shell tuck along each edge. So this would make a beautiful strap or belt. And this is the little turn tube. Oftentimes we have trouble getting our turn tubes to be consistent and consistently very narrow. I think I have a trick for you this morning that will help you with that. Oh, and by the way, once you get your turn tubes made, then braiding them is a snap. If you'll notice on the toe of a presser foot, there are some raised notch needle position indicators here. We are going to have the needle in the far right position, and I'm going to guide the folded edge of the fabric that contains the thread chain right under the second
little
notch, thank you, thanks, the second little notch from the needle. This is going to help us get a consistently narrow braid or turn tube. Now I've already run a chain here on the serger that is longer than the strip of fabric. Doesn't have to be a great deal longer, but just longer than the strip of fabric. And we're going to bring the fabric to the serger, put the chain on the right side of the fabric and fold the fabric right sides together around the chain. When you start at the beginning here, we don't have to have it quite so narrow. You'll see a little bit later how it's helpful when we have this a little wider at the top. And now I'm just guiding the edge, the folded edge of the fabric that contains the thread chain right under that second raised notch needle indicator. And this is what we'll have. We'll have a tube that's wrong sides out and a pull chain. Do you see how that chain is encased in the tube? We'll just pull on that thread chain and the tube turns to the right side, and it's very narrow and it's quite uniform.
Margaret,
I hope you like this.
That's pretty magical. All right, now here's what I really would like for you to do.
Okay.
Put this over there, that invisible hem. I know you told me earlier about I would call that an invisible hem. What exactly did you do on that?
We used fusible thread on the lower looper of the overlock stitch.
Fusible thread. Okay.
Fusible thread.
Okay.
At the bottom edge of these tap pants, before I turned up the hem, I just serged the bottom edge with fusible thread on the lower looper. Then when I turned up the hem, all I had to do was press it in place.
Oh my, it's just beautiful.
Thank you.
Absolutely beautiful. And Margaret, also your bias shaping over there. Did you do that on a lace shaping board, or did you?
Well, you certainly could.
But how did you do that?
You certainly could. I made these belt loops.
Okay.
With the fusible thread and the chain looper.
Okay.
And then I put marks on my tap pants about every 3 inches, and I put marks on the bias belt loop every 4 inches, and then just made sure that the marks matched
now,
all
Margaret,
the way down.
On that would be the place where you would run that little magic pull thread through. Is that
but you didn't have to. I didn't have to.
You didn't have to on that. Okay. Well, that is just absolutely fabulous. And let our viewers have one more look at those precious straps. Those are the best looking straps.
Well,
I just think they're beautiful.
And
sometimes on lingerie, I think it's very difficult to say, okay, what am I going to use for a strap? Just a plain ribbon? But this is the answer right there. It's beautiful.
And this little braid has a little bit of a stretch characteristic to it.
Your little bow there, too.
Well, thank you.
And now Margaret has some sewing inspirations to share with you. Margaret, I just love the things you have brought. Let me see what this is so good looking. Tell us about it.
Well, this is a purchased camisole, and it's so much fun to add those trims. You know, we all have those beautiful trims in our stash. Here's a little machine embroidery just to perk it up a little bit.
And I believe this is that magical technique that you used on your other tap pants. Now, Margaret, tell us. Okay.
Here's some more embroidery. This is the belt loop, again made with the fusible thread.
All right, in other words, you made it and then ironed it down.
Yes.
All right, Margaret, I want to show them. I don't know that everybody knows about this fusible thread. It feels a little bit like dental floss, but we would certainly not want to use it for that purpose. Please, no. And I think it's kind of like that wash away basting thread. It needs to go in a container immediately and be marked because it looks like any other thread.
Absolutely.
But I'm just fascinated with all the techniques that you have just kind of ironed things down.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
And it's heat activated with an iron, so it's quick and it's easy.
Fusible thread. All right, now, this is some more of those wonderful braided straps. Oh, Margaret, this is so good looking.
Well, thank you.
And then you did just a simple little machine embroidery. Once again, a purchased top that you just made something special.
Change the straps just to add a little
Well,
flash.
it's a designer. Well, you did add flash.
Well,
it's beautiful. This is my all-time favorite jacket. Oh,
the king.
The king, the Elvis Presley jacket with wonderful machine embroidery on the front, and they're just really good looking. And let me turn this around. I know you had some special things to tell us back here.
I do. This was a purchased jacket, and I opened up this yoke seam. These are all bias binder strips made with the serger.
Oh, my.
Wrapped them around a hoop to get the length, and then just install the ends of those bias strips into the yoke seam and sewed it back up again.
This is so cute.
Thank
and
you.
It certainly does look. I saw Elvis Presley when he came to Huntsville many, many years ago and enjoyed it. And this is just such a fun thing to add to any jacket. All right, now once again you used. No,
I didn't use that. Okay. I did want to tell everybody though that you can add this to the bobbin of your sewing machine. You don't have to use a serger. You can put this on the bobbin of your sewing machine.
The heat
and
activated.
Use it. Mm-hmm.
What is this called again?
Fusible thread.
The fusible thread.
Right.
Okay. And then this wonderful quilt. I think you were going to tell us a little bit about these.
Well, I just wanted to point out that those bias strips, those are belt loops again, made with fusible thread on the chain looper, and they were just pressed into place.
And pressed down.
And give such a pop and an accent to this beautiful quilt.
Well, it really does. This is a beautiful quilt. I love those.
And it doesn't get much easier than pressing.
And you know, Margaret,
in place.
Easy really is a word that we love.
Yes.
And that we love for our viewers to know that what we do is easy and it's fun too.
And we don't have to give up any of the precision and the end beauty.
Exactly, exactly. And now Margaret has a so quick, so easy project for you. Margaret, I love those adorable house shoes. Tell us how you did them.
Well, thank you. These are again made on the serger. They're made with a belt loop binder. I'll just set this to the side for a minute. To make this, oh, I'm so sorry. Let me bring this back. This is a lot like pin weaving. I bet some of you remember when we did pin weaving. Well, that's how the top of these house shoes were made. The pattern for the house shoes called for a solid fabric toe. But as you can see, I took the template for the toe part of the house shoes, and I just placed and wove these belt loops across the top and placed them just where I wanted them. That's your choice, always. I want to show you a little bit about how we make these belt loops, and I've even put on some of this fusible thread in the chain looper, just so you can see that how easy it is to work. We have a belt loop binder. We are set up for the cover stitch. That's the chain looper and 2 chain needles. This is the same stitch you would find on your purchased knitwear. 2 rows of top stitch and a looper thread on the bottom. But you can also make these wonderful little belt loops. See those 2 rows of stitching, and that took a 1-inch wide strip of fabric and folded under both edges evenly. Now then, you see the heavy concentration of thread here on the bottom? That's the chain looper, and that is the fusible thread. So we can position this piece of fabric and then press it down into place. As you see, I've taken some other strips here that have that fusible thread in the chain looper, and I did make a cloth toe out with the template. And then I just, do you remember when we made those pot holders with those looms? That's what this reminded me a lot of. So we're just in and out and in and out and over and under. Exactly, exactly. Pin those in place.
And then press them, didn't you?
And then took it to the ironing board and pressed this in place. It was very quick and very easy. It's the easiest pin weaving you will ever do. Here is the sole, the template for the sole of the house shoe. And as you can see, excuse me, I'm going to put my hand in here so you can tell that that really has a shape to it. As you can see, when we pin this toe to the sole and sew it down, it becomes the house shoe and has the shape to it. We can take these little purchased trims that we find in the store or in our stash. We can just add those as we like or not. You could even add some embroidery, but you'll have a great time with your serger making these quick little house shoes. They're great gifts.
And that wonderful thread that just irons everything down. Now that is a quick trick and a wonderful trick.
Fusible thread.
Thank you so much, Margaret.
Oh, you're so welcome.
You've had such wonderful things to share with our viewers today.
You're a delight.
And now I have some hand embroidery for you. I'm so pleased to have as my guest today my very dear friend Beverley Sheldrick from New Zealand. Beverley has authored several books on needlework and is a regular contributor to So Beautiful magazine. Beverley, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Martha. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you for inviting me. Now today I'd like to show your viewers these beautiful dogwood. Now they're not difficult in any way, but you can see when you look at the little crossover gown that I've done just how simple and just how pretty they can look. So here we are. We'll just have a little look at how to do them. As I said, very, very simple. If you look at this, you'll see it's just a straight stitch. And then when you see here, you can see how there are 4 straight stitches. I've left a little hole in the center and I've got them all approximately the same size. What does make it different is the fact that it is only 4 petals, and normally we do 5. Now you'll also see here that I've got just a little, and I'm using floss at this point, Martha, I've got just a little extension at each end. So I've come up in the fabric, in the silk, and then into the fabric like that, just and ending up with a 3 wrap French knot there. And of course you can see here I've done a bigger example for you. You can see how I've done that stem, which is just outline stitch, and I've brought it down. You can see how the placement of the flowers, how they sit really not quite on the stem, but close by. And I think they're rather effective. As you can see in the gown, you can see that I've used 3 different colours rather than having them all in clumps of the one colour. I think they seem to look more effective if you use 3 colours. Now, the leaf is a slightly longer leaf, and it may not be quite so easy for the viewers to see it, but I have put a little fly stitch, you know, my favourite fly stitch. It's difficult not to use it. And you can see how it's here, just in there, and it'll show up a little bit more in the sample that I'm going to do. So of course, here we are. Just that straight stitch. Remember, ladies, because I know some ladies do have difficulty getting a straight stitch there. So just smooth it forward with your finger or with your thumb, just like that. Now you can see here that I've got 2 of them there. You can see the size of the hole that I've got there. So there I am, just pulling it, holding it where I want it to go, putting in that next one there like that, and over to here. Really all you're doing, of course, is evenly quartering it, just like that. So that was easy. Now I've used, of course, a stronger colour to make it easier for the viewers to see it, but you can see now that I've got these little tiny points on the end of each flower, like that, or each petal, and then of course I'll come up in the middle there and do that little 3 wraps. Of course we know that technically it's a bullion or in that family, but I think it's so much easier to just call it a French knot, correct or not. And of course, last but not least, you can see here I've got this leaf, and I just want to show you how I put that French knot, and I'm hoping that everybody will be able to see this, because did I say a French knot? I meant my favourite fly stitch.
Fly stitch.
But you can see that there I have that just inside that leaf there. You can see how it gives it just a little bit more texture, and I think it just seems to fit in rather nicely with the dogwood. So of course the leaf was a ribbon stitch, or as I said before, a split stitch. If you're reading an Australian magazine, it both means the same thing. So we have that there, and then, as I said, we have this little fly stitch to give the effect of a wee vein in the middle of that leaf there. Now that was easy, wasn't it?
Yes, it was easy. And Beverly, I especially love the color combination that you used with it really is the beautiful yellows and creams and pinks. It really, I love your dogwood. That's one of my favorite flowers.
Well, I love the dogwood.
One of my favorite trees. We have a pink dogwood and a white dogwood at
beautiful.
our home.
Just lovely.
Beverly, thank you so much. And now I have a home decorating project for you. I think most of you know of my extremely wonderful love of vintage Victorian white clothes with the beautiful embroideries. And many times when we reproduce these embroideries for machine, we're reproducing them for, for clothing, to put on women's clothing if it came from a woman's blouse, but there are other ways you can use it too. Would you look at this beautiful doily I have here? This particular design, look, just one of these designs was on the front of one of the most beautiful blouses in my collection. And of course I bought the blouse thinking about reproducing this to go on the front of a woman's blouse. But this shows a very creative way of using machine embroidery. And just when you think about it, just think about the lady that made this wonderful piece of embroidery years and years ago. Little did she know that 100 years later it would be on Martha's sewing room and people would enjoy using that embroidery on a pretty doily. If you'll notice, I did not choose to put a monogram in the middle of this doily because I have a really pretty crystal vase. It isn't a very big one, but it's just beautiful. And I'm going to use this on the buffet in my dining room with my crystal vase sitting in the middle of it. So there was no reason to put a monogram in there. This is just a beautiful doily that could be used a number of different, including you could also make a pretty pillow out of this if you wanted to put the circular bottom underneath that. But it's a pretty doily, and I happen to love doilies. Now then, what you're going to do to machine embroider it, first of all, you've got a circle. This started with a circle, and you're going to fold it and divide it into 8 pieces because I chose to use 8 pieces. As you know, you can print out your machine embroidery, a pattern. I needed to do 8 of these so I could center them, lay them on the circular pattern. I have to make this template, and I marked all 8 sections, and you're going to need to print out 8 of these. I'm going to put them here all around, and you're going to need to mark the centers of each one of these, because when you get ready to do your machine embroidery, you're going to need to slip the section under. You're going to need to slip the fabric with the markings. And I also chose to put little scallops. I chose to just trace on scallops in between, but I'm going to need to put these. You mark the center, you slip it under in your embroidery hoop, getting the needle placed exactly on center, and then you slip the template out ready to embroider. And I also chose to, on the little scallops which I connected, I chose just to do a satin stitch plus a little regular stitch. Enjoy. And now I have a beautiful piece from my vintage collection to share with you. Absolutely exquisite baby bibs were part of every baby's wardrobe. This little bib is absolutely precious, and you look at it and you see the little ruffle with the 3 pin tucks. It might have even been a christening bib many times when you have the 1, 2, 3, that was for Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, 3 tucks. But it might have just been a fancy baby bib. Has beautiful, beautiful little embroidery with scallops all the way around the edge and delicate little flowers, white on white. But what I want to show you is this is not just a pretty bib. It really is very practical because these were really used, and the bibs were this fancy. All right, I want to lift it up to show you the under bib. You think, well, that looks like more batiste. It is. It's the base of the bib the top part of the bib is batiste, the little round piece. However, I'm going to lift it up one more time and let you see that this is a heavy flannel underneath here. So you really could use this for a baby bib. And of course, it's all 100% cotton, so it was all completely washable. I think that probably some babies, this was the bib they used every day, but I also love to believe that this very, very fancy with the hand embroidery might have been a christening bib or a bib for a really special occasion. I thank you so much for coming to be with me in my sewing room today. I've had a good time, but most importantly, I hope you have, and I'd like to invite you to come back next time.